All right, hello, welcome to Mindfulness. Before we start with our mindful breathing, I want you to think back on the last 10 lessons that we've worked on about mindfulness, mindful body, mindful breathing, mindful eyes, mindful ears, heartfulness, heartfulness in your home or on the playground, though we obviously can't be in the playground right now. And what we talked about last week, which was making space, putting space between the emotion we feel and our reaction or our action about that emotion, especially about things like anger, what we do when we get angry. So think about that, and now let's mindfully breathe and see if we can focus our energy on our breath. Focus our attention on our breath for 2 minutes. Okay? Are you ready? Breathing in and breathing out. Remember that mantra. And I'm only going to ring the bowl once today, and then we'll embrace the silence. How did your mindful breathing go today? Have you been practicing? If not, see if you can find time to practice. Did your mind wander today while we mindfully breathed? Mine did, at least 10 times. Did you notice when your mind was wandering? Did you bring your focus back to your breath when you noticed that? If you need help practicing your mindful breathing, go back and do that again. Rewind the video just to those 2 minutes of silence with me and practice. Practice that mindful breathing, seeing if you can keep your attention on your breath. So, we have learned so many ways to be mindful. I know I can't see you, but I want you to do this anyway. Raise your hand if you've gotten some type of benefit from mindfulness. I know I can't see you, but literally raise your hand. And then bring it down again. So far, everything we've actually been sitting down. If you've noticed, we've never done any sort of mindful activity while we've been standing. But obviously, other than the fact that we're sitting in front of our computers a little bit longer than we used to, because of virtual learning, we spend a lot of time on our feet, don't we? So we also then need to be mindful when we're moving. So we're going to do that now. When we know how to move mindfully, we don't hurt people with our bodies, we don't hurt ourselves, like by running into something or by tripping. And when we're trying to be mindful, it's much easier to notice things when we're still and quiet and when we move very slowly. So that's what we're going to practice today. So again, maybe not so much virtually anymore, but when you were in your classrooms, when we were learning in a normal way, you raise your hand a lot, don't you? Whether you have a question or a comment. Most of the time we do that without even noticing really quickly, like we did at the beginning of the lesson. Just going to raise our hands really quickly. Let's see what we notice, though, when we do it slowly. So let's get very quiet and still and try to keep things this quiet, even when we start moving. Put both your hands on your lap and slowly lift one of your arms. And now lower it very slow. Notice as your arm's moving. Do you notice if your arm feels heavy or light? Does it change as you move it? Try that again, especially noticing if your arm feels heavy or light, or if it changes depending on where your hand is. This time use a different arm, use your other arm, but this time notice if you notice any temperature. Does your arm feel warm, cold, hot? Does it change? Let's try this arm. Did you notice any change? I didn't notice a lot. Maybe a little cool as it was moving because the air hitting it cooled it down a little bit. And I felt like my arms, now that I pay attention, I feel like my arms feel heavy. Normally, we don't even think about that. We've got all these muscles that are kind of making it all work, but our arms actually weigh something. Same thing with like our legs. We don't usually think about how heavy our legs are, but our legs weigh a lot. Did you notice? Let's do it one more time. Do both arms at the same time this time, and let's use anchor words. Maybe in our head we're going to say lifting, lifting, and then lowering, lowering. Lifting, lifting. Lowering, 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 lowering. Let's do another one. This one's going to require you to stand. So if you're in a space that requires you to move a chair or something so you can stand easily, go ahead and do that. And then think about that too, especially now that we're online learning. I bet you stand up and sit down a lot. Sit down at your computer, learn, stand up, sit down. So we're going to practice doing this mindfully too. We're going to stand up really slowly and pay attention to what your whole body feels like, just like you did with your arms. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Watch carefully. I've got my bouncy chair now, by the way. I upgraded. Why is it out of focus? Come on. My autofocus not on? No, it is. Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm all blurry. See if that helps. Turn on stabilization. So I'm going to stand. Are you ready? Watch me. Now I'll sit back down again. Now you try. And if you want to do a mantra, standing, standing, or sitting, sitting, you can do that. But see what you notice when you stand up very slowly. And when we get to the top, we'll take a few mindful breaths too. I'll back up even more so that you don't have to look at my torso. Ready? Sitting, sitting. Get closer again. So what did you notice? Some of the things I noticed was the sound of my hands scraping my pants as I was standing. I noticed the pressure on my legs and my bottom as I was standing and then sitting. I noticed that pressure more. I noticed my muscles flexing in my quads. That's the front part of your muscles. Did you notice those things too? I noticed that my chair also is springy, so my chair was coming up with me, which was kind of funny. Now, why do you think we did this activity slowly when we started to learn mindful movement? If you think back to when you, although you probably don't remember, when you started learning how to walk, you didn't walk right away. You certainly didn't run right away. You crawled. You started out slow. So you crawled, then you walked, and then you would run. So being mindful is the same. We have to learn how to be mindful while we're moving slowly. And when we get good at that, then we can practice mindful movement while we're moving more quickly. For my older students, how might this be helpful in something like the musical or the spring concert? Even though we're not doing those things this year, how would being mindful of your movement be helpful? And for my younger kids, how might this mindful movement, once you get good at it, how might it be helpful on the playground? Now, now that you have practiced moving mindfully, I want you to take out your journals mindfully. But I want you to be mindful the whole time you do it. So moving slowly and noticing all the things that go on when you're doing that. Things that you kind of just do without thinking normally. And here's your journal question. I want you to write your name, but I want you to write it mindfully. Pay attention to your hand. Notice how your hand moves. Notice how you make your letters. Let's say write your name 5 times in your journal. And when you're done writing it mindfully, write about what you noticed while you were writing your name. Okay? Let's end with a few mindful breaths, and we'll see you next week. Have a mindful day.